Introducing. Close your eyes, take a long, slow breath in and let it go. Feel your body settle. Feel the weight of it. Your arms, your legs, your shoulders, sinking down, growing heavier with each breath you take. You don't need to hold yourself up tonight. You don't need to be anywhere or do anything or think about anything at all. Tonight, I'm going to take you somewhere very simple, not far away and not long ago, just a small village tucked into the side of a gentle hill in a valley where a river runs soft and unhurried through the land. The kind of village where people have lived for many, many generations, where the streets are made of old stone, worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, where the houses are built low and solid, with thick walls and deep windowsills, and gardens that have been tended so long they know what they're doing on their own. It is nighttime. The sun set hours ago behind the western hills in a long, slow fade of amber and rose. The last of the light has been gone for some time now, and in its place, the moon has risen, a full moon, or nearly full, round and pale and luminous, hanging high above the valley in a sky so clear and dark that the stars seem close enough to touch. Everything is quiet, not the anxious quiet of a place holding its breath, the easy, deep quiet of a place that is simply at rest. The village is sleeping, and tonight you are going to walk through it. Slowly, gently, without hurry or purpose, simply moving through the moonlit streets, noticing things, feeling the cool night air on your skin, listening to the small sounds that make up the music of a sleeping place. Take another breath, let your body grow heavy, and let me take you there, the edge of the village. You arrive at the village from the east road. It is a narrow road, packed earth and loose gravel, bordered on both sides by low stone walls. Beyond the walls, on your left, a field stretches away into the darkness. Hay, cut and baled weeks ago, the stubble pale and silvery in the moonlight. On your right, an orchard, apple trees mostly, their branches bare and angular now in the late season, reaching up against the sky like the careful gestures of patient people. Your footsteps are soft on the path. The gravel shifts slightly under your feet, each step a small sound, a quiet crunch, barely there, and then silence again. The air is cool, not cold, not yet. Autumn has arrived but is still being gentle about it. There is a quality to the night air here that is difficult to describe. It is clean and faintly sweet, carrying the smell of cut grass and dry earth, and very faintly, somewhere ahead, wood smoke. You pause. You tilt your head slightly and breathe it in. That wood smoke, someone's hearth, still banked from the evening, sending its last thin thread of scent into the night. It is one of those smells that doesn't just enter through the nose, but seems to travel all the way down through the chest, settling somewhere warm and deep. You stand there for a moment. The moon is high and bright. It is so bright, in fact, that you can see the road quite clearly ahead of you. The pale stones, the dark line of the walls, the point where the road curves slightly and the first buildings of the village come into view. Low rooftops, dark windows, the outline of a church tower, square and solid, rising above everything else. You begin to walk again. The road curves, the orchard gives way to a cottage garden, a low wooden gate, a path of stepping stones, flower beds that have finished blooming for the year. The dried stalks tied in tidy bundles. Someone has left a pair of boots on the front step. They are very muddy. Someone has been in the garden today, working late, and then come in and left their boots at the door, the way people do in houses where muddy boots are not permitted past the threshold. You smile at the boots. There is something deeply comforting about ordinary evidence of ordinary lives. Someone came in from the garden this afternoon, took off their muddy boots, and went inside to wash their hands and eat their supper and sit by the fire and go to bed. And now the boots are waiting, patient as boots always are, for morning. You move on. The road widens slightly as you enter the village proper. The stone walls become stone buildings, houses set close together, the facades smooth and pale in the moonlight. Most of the windows are dark. One, on the upper floor of a tall, narrow house, shows a faint amber light behind the curtain. A candle, perhaps, or the last of a lamp left burning low. But it is the only one. The village sleeps. The main street. The main street runs through the center of the village like a spine. It is not a grand street. It is perhaps 4 meters wide, paved with old cobblestones that have been worn to a beautiful evenness by generations of cartwheels and boot heels and the slow, patient work of rain. The cobblestones are slightly rounded on top, the color of pewter in the moonlight, and in the gaps between them, moss has grown. A dark, soft moss that makes the street a little quieter to walk on, that fills in the cracks and gives the whole surface a slightly textured, ancient look. You walk slowly down this street. On either side, the buildings stand close, shops mostly, at street level, their shutters closed and latched for the night, their signs hanging still in the quiet air. A baker, a small general goods store, its window display dimly visible behind the glass. A bolt of fabric in dusty blue, some tins arranged in a careful pyramid, a handwritten card whose words you cannot quite read in the dark. A cobbler's, its window full of shoes on, stands, the shoes looking oddly alive in the moonlight, as if they might at any moment decide to go somewhere. You stop in front of the bakery. Even through the closed shutters there is something. Not a smell exactly. It is too early for the morning bake to have begun, but there is a warmth, a residual warmth from the day's work, radiating faintly from the thick stone walls. You press one hand flat against the wall. It is warm, stone that has held the heat of ovens all day, still letting it go slowly into the night air. Degree by degree, you stand there for a moment with your hand on the warm stone. Above you, the sign for the bakery creaks softly, just once. A small movement in a breath of air, a tiny sound in the great quiet, and then still again. You move on. The street bends gently to the left, and as you follow it, you come to the center of the village, a small square open to the sky with a stone fountain at its heart. The fountain is not running at this time of year. The village shuts it off in autumn to keep the pipes from freezing, but the basin is still full of water, dark and still. And in the surface of the water, you can see the moon reflected, a slightly wavering, slightly smaller moon floating on the dark water like something that has fallen from the sky. You stand at the edge of the fountain and look down at it. The reflected moon shimmers almost imperceptibly. The water is very still, but not perfectly still. And every few seconds a tiny ripple crosses the surface, and the moon stretches and bends, and then slowly settles back into itself. Around the square, the buildings are larger than the ones on the main street. The inn, a broad 2-story building with a sign hanging above the door, a painted moon and a painted key. The inn's name in old lettering that you can just make out. The Moon and Key. The shutters are closed and latched, but you can see, if you look carefully, a crack of light beneath the front door. The innkeeper, perhaps, still awake, or simply a light left burning for the last traveller to find their way in. There is a bench beside the fountain, and you sit down on it for a moment. The stone of the bench is cool through your clothing. You settle your weight onto it and look around the square. The buildings surrounding it make a kind of enclosure, not tight or crowded, but enclosing in the way that cupped hands enclose something you want to keep safe. The sky above is a deep, clear navy. The stars thick in it, the moon dominant. It is very quiet. Somewhere not far away, a dog is sleeping. You can hear, very faintly, the sound of it breathing. That deep, rhythmic sound that dogs make when they are completely comfortable, completely at rest. A dog that has had a good day and knows it. You sit with the sound of the sleeping dog and the reflected moon and the faint warmth still radiating from the bakery walls. You breathe in and out. The inn. You rise from the bench and drift toward the inn. Not to go inside. The door is closed and the hour is late, but you walk slowly around its perimeter, along the side passage where the cobblestones give way to flatter stones, and there is a smell of hay and horses from the small stable at the back. The stable is a low building, attached to the inn by a covered passageway. Its wide door is slightly ajar, and from within comes warmth and the sweet smell of hay and the particular gentle smell of horses at rest. You push the door open a little further and look in. 3 horses stand in their stalls. 2 are sleeping. You can tell by the angle of their heads, which hang low and slightly to one side, and by the deep, slow rhythm of their breathing. The 3rd is awake or half awake, its large dark eye turned toward you with a calm curiosity that is not alarm, just awareness. You stand in the doorway. The horse watches you. It is a dark bay, deep brown, almost black in this light, with a white star on its forehead. Its breathing is steady and slow, its ears turned forward but relaxed. After a moment, it loses interest in you and turns its head away toward the hay in its manger and begins to eat with the quiet, methodical pulling and chewing of a horse that is content. You listen to the sound of it eating. Pull, chew, pull, chew. A sound like slow rain or like distant water, rhythmic and gentle. The two sleeping horses breathe around it, their exhalations slow and deep. The hay rustles. A hoof shifts slightly on the straw-covered floor with a small, hollow sound. You stand there longer than you expected. There is something about a stable at night. The warmth of large animals, the smell of hay and leather and horse, the way the sounds are all slow and deliberate. That is one of the most peaceful places in the world. It asks nothing of you. The horses do not need you to be anything. They are simply here, being horses, warm and substantial and entirely at ease. Eventually, you step back and let the door fall gently to its former angle. You make your way back to the square, the side streets. From the square, several smaller streets branch off in different directions. You choose on at random a narrow lane running roughly northward between rows of houses that stand so close together their upper floors nearly touch overhead, leaving a long corridor of dark sky above you, the stars visible in a narrow strip. The lane is barely wide enough for two people to pass comfortably. The houses on either side present their blank faces to you. Old stone, old mortar, old wood shutters painted in colours you cannot quite make out in the moonlight. But that would be blue or green, or the dark red that people have always loved for shutters. Come morning, flower boxes in several windows, their plants cut back for autumn. A cat on a windowsill, black and white, tucked into a perfect circle of itself, deeply asleep. You pause by the cat. Its nose is buried in its own fur. Its paws are folded neatly beneath it. Its sides rise and fall with each slow breath, each exhalation a tiny shiver of its fur, barely visible. The windowsill is narrow, but the cat occupies it with complete confidence, the way cats always occupy every space, as if they were the first to be there, and everything else is merely an afterthought. You walk on. The lane opens unexpectedly into a small garden, not a private garden, a shared one, a communal space that several houses open onto, their back doors and gates facing this central area. There is a well here, its wooden cover latched shut for the night. There is a large tree, a linden tree you think, very old, its trunk thick and furrowed, its branches spreading wide above the garden, even now that its leaves have mostly fallen. The remaining leaves catch the moonlight and hold it, each one a small pale lamp. Beneath the linden tree, there is a wooden table and two benches, worn smooth and silver with age. Someone has left a clay cup on the table, forgotten. A bit of dried flour has blown into it and sits there, preserved and small and perfect. You sit on one of the benches. The moon is a little lower now, though still high. Time passes slowly here. From somewhere on the other side of the garden wall, you can hear the faint, sleepy chuckling of chickens settling. A small wind moves through the linden tree's remaining leaves, and they shiver and turn and catch the light differently, so that for a moment the whole canopy above you seems to shimmer, silver and quiet. You tilt your head back and look up through the branches. The branches are like a map of somewhere. They divide the sky into territories. This piece of dark sky with 3 bright stars. This piece with 1 star and a wisp of cloud. This piece with nothing but dark, deep blue. The bark of the branches is pale in the moonlight, pale grey with patches of lichen that are even paler, almost white. The chickens fall quiet. The wind dies. Everything is still. You breathe. The river. You find your way through the garden and out through a small gate on the far side onto a path that runs down the slope toward the river. You can hear it before you see it. A soft, continuous sound, not a rush, not a roar, just a gentle, persistent conversation of water over stones. The river in this valley is not large. It runs perhaps 3 or 4 meters wide, no more, and shallow enough in most places to wade across without getting your knees wet. But it runs all year, fed by springs high in the hills, and in autumn it is full and steady, and the sound of it carries easily in the night air. The path follows a low stone wall down the slope and then curves along the river bank. You come out onto the bank. The river lies before you, dark and silver, the moonlight falling across it in a long, wavering line. The surface is not still. It moves constantly, the current reading itself across the face of the water in patterns that shift and change and shift again, never exactly repeating. Where the water runs over stones close to the surface, it catches the light and breaks it into dozens of tiny fragments, each one glinting for a moment and then gone. You sit on the bank. The grass here is soft and slightly damp with dew. You can feel the coolness of it. The smell of the river is clean and mineral, water and stone, and a faint greenness, the smell of living things that grow in water. On the other bank, willows stand at the water's edge. Their long branches trail down into the river, barely moving in the slight current, the tips of them drawing slow, lazy patterns on the surface of the water. The willows are golden at this time of year, the very last of their summer color clinging on, and in the moonlight they glow with a soft, warm light that seems almost to come from within. You watch the willows, you watch the water. A fish rises somewhere near the middle of the river. A brief silver disturbance on the surface, a spreading ring of ripples, and then nothing. The rings expand and flatten and disappear. The surface is smooth again. Time passes. A heron stands on a flat stone near the far bank. You did not notice it at first. It is so still, so perfectly the color of moonlit stone and shadow, that it seemed to be a part of the landscape. But you see it now, the long neck folded, the sharp beak angled down toward the water, the body settled on its long legs with a patience that is ancient and absolute. The heron does not move. You do not move. The river runs between you, the mill, upstream, perhaps 300 meters from where you sit. You can make out the shape of the mill. It is a large building, the largest in the village, though it sits slightly apart from the rest. An old mill built at the point where the river runs through, a natural narrowing between two outcrops of rock, creating a drop of perhaps a meter that the mill race uses to drive the wheel. The wheel is not turning tonight. It turns in the mornings and afternoons when there is grain to grind. At night it rests, its great wooden paddles hanging still above the water, dark and geometric against the sky. You walk upstream along the bank toward it. The sound of the river changes as you approach the mill race, the water speaking more urgently here, pressing through the narrow channel with more purpose, the drop creating a soft, continuous rushing that is, louder than the gentle murmur of the river above and below. It is a sound you feel as much as hear, a low, steady vibration in the air. The mill building is solid and old, its stone walls dark with moisture, its roof of old slate catching the moonlight in irregular patches where the slates have been replaced over the years and are newer, lighter in color. At the base of the building, the mill race runs under a low arch and the wheel hangs above it, the paddles just touching the surface of the rushing water but not catching it, resting. You stand beside the wheel. It smells of water and old wood and, very faintly, a flower. The flower smell is extraordinary, not strong, just a faint, dry, warm sweetness that clings to everything in and around the mill. The building itself seems to breathe the smell of flower, to have absorbed it into its stones over generations of grinding until it has become part of the place itself. You press your hand to the stone wall, cool and rough, with a slight dampness from the spray of the race. The stone is very old, not just old the way the season's leaves are old, or even the way the old linden tree is old. Old in the way that makes you think of everyone who has ever pressed their hand to this wall before you, the miller who built it, and his children, and their children, down through all the years to now. The wheel is still above you. The water rushes below. You stand there for a long time, just listening. The church. You make your way back from the mill, along the river path, and up through the garden, through the narrow lane, and back to the main square. The church stands on the far side of the square, set back slightly from the other buildings, with a low stone wall around its yard. The wall is mossy on top, the moss dark and soft. The gate in the wall is iron, old iron, black with age and use, and it opens with a quiet sound, not a creak exactly, more of a small, deliberate exhale of metal. When you push it, the churchyard is full of grass and old stones. The gravestones stand at irregular intervals, some upright and clear, some leaning, some so old the letters have worn smooth and are difficult or impossible to read. The grass between them is close cropped. The village keeps it tidy, and in the moonlight it has the quality of green that is almost blue, a deep, even color that makes the whole yard look like the surface of very still water. You walk slowly through it. There is nothing mournful about this place at night. The stones stand in the moonlight with a quietness that is not sad, just settled. These are the names and dates of people who lived here, who knew this square and this fountain and this church, who smelled this mill smell and heard this river, who pressed their hands to warm bakery walls on winter mornings. They are present here in the way that history is present in a place, not as absence, but as depth, as foundation. The church itself is small and old. Its tower is the tallest thing in the village, square and plain, with a clock face on one side that shows, in the moonlight, both hands pointing close to 2 in the morning. The clock is not moving. You watch for a moment and confirm. The hands are still. The clock, like everything else in this village, is resting. The church door is old oak, bound with iron straps, set deep in a stone arch that has been carved at its apex with a simple flower, a rose or something like it, worn but still recognizable. You sit on the step. The stone of the step is cold and smooth, and deeply worn in the center where countless feet have stepped over centuries. You can feel the shape of that worn place under you, the concavity carved by time and use, a hollow shaped exactly by the weight and movement of people. From here, you can see the whole square, the fountain, its dark water, the inn with its crack of light beneath the door, the bakery, its sign still, the cobblestone silver in the moonlight, the moss in the cracks dark, the buildings on all sides quiet and still and full of sleeping people. You sit on the church step and look at the square. The moon is moving. You can tell, watching it over several minutes, that it has shifted slightly toward the west. It is past the zenith now, beginning its long descent toward morning, but it is still high and bright, and the night has many hours left. The clock on the tower above you makes a small sound, not a chime, just a preparatory tick, a gathering of itself, and then strikes two clear low notes that travel out across the square and the sleeping streets and dissolve into the cool air. Then silence again, the houses at night. You rise from the church step and walk slowly back through the square and into the residential streets to the north of the village center. These streets are quieter, if that is possible, than the main street. No shops here, no inn, just houses set in their small plots, their gardens sleeping, their chimneys sending up the occasional faint thread of smoke from banked fires. You walk slowly, not going anywhere in particular, just moving. The houses here are a little more varied than the ones on the main street. Some older, some newer, some extended over the years with additions that don't quite match the original, but give the place character and accumulated quality, as if the house had been changing slowly with its family over generations. One house has a very old apple tree in the front garden, one of its main branches supported by a wooden prop, the kind of arrangement that speaks of long attachment. No one cut the branch because the tree is too old and too loved. In the moonlight, the tree is beautiful, its remaining leaves catching the light, a few late apples still clinging to the highest branches, dark and round. You stop and look up at the apples. They are very high up. They survived the autumn harvest because no one can reach them. Or perhaps they were simply left for the birds. Either way, they are up there, dark and perfectly round against the pale sky, like small ornaments hung in the tree. As you watch, a small brown bird, a thrush perhaps, lands on the branch above one of the apples, regards it, and then drops down and begins to peck at it. The bird is so focused on its task that it does not notice you. It pecks and eats and pecks, each peck sending a tiny tremor through the apple, and you watch it eat in the moonlight for what feels like a very long time. Then a cloud passes over the moon, just a thin cloud, more like a veil than a cloud, and for a moment everything dims and softens. The bird freezes, alert. You hold very still. The cloud drifts on, the moonlight returns, and the bird resumes its meal. You walk on. Thy baker's house, at the end of one of the residential streets, set slightly apart from its neighbors by a larger garden, is a house with a low light burning in the kitchen window. Not much light, a single candle or a small lamp turned down low, but enough to create a warm amber rectangle in the dark facade of the house, enough to suggest that someone is awake inside, or at least that someone's lamp was left burning when they went to bed. You walk past the gate and look in. The kitchen window faces the street. You can see through the glass the shape of the kitchen, a large table, a dresser along one wall, the dark mouth of a fireplace where a few coals still glow faintly red. Strings of dried herbs hang from a low beam. There is a large earthenware bowl on the table, covered with a cloth. The bowl is the baker's dough. You realize this slowly, with a quiet satisfaction. The baker has set his dough to rise overnight, mixed it in the evening, covered it, left it there on the kitchen table to do its work in the warmth of the cooling kitchen. In a few hours, before dawn, he will come downstairs and find it risen and soft and ready, and he will begin the work of shaping and proving and baking. And by the time the village begins to wake, the smell of fresh bread will be moving through the streets. But for now, the dough is just resting, covered with its cloth, in its bowl, in the dim amber light of the kitchen. You stand at the gate for a moment longer. The red glow of the coals in the fireplace pulses very faintly, not quite breathing, but something like it. The herbs hang still. The dough rests under its cloth. The house is full of sleeping people and rising dough and dying coals, and all of it is so ordinary and so perfect that you feel something ease in your chest, something loosen and settle. You walk on. The school, near the northern edge of the village, where the residential streets give way to fields, there is a schoolhouse. It is a long, low building, a single room, essentially, with tall windows along one side to let in the morning light. The windows are dark now. Through the glass, you can make out the rows of small desks, the large blackboard at the front, the teacher's table. On the blackboard, half erased, a line of letters or numbers, the day's lesson wiped away but not completely. On the wall outside the door, someone has chalked a drawing. It is a child's drawing, rough but recognizable, of a house with smoke coming from the chimney and a large yellow sun above it. The rain has not yet washed it away. It has been there long enough to dry and set into the chalk surface of the wall, a house, a sun, exactly what you draw. When you are 6 years old and someone gives you a piece of chalk and the freedom of a wall, you study it for a moment. The sun has 8 rays, each one carefully, the same length. The smoke from the chimney rises in a neat spiral. The house has 4 windows, each with curtains in them, small V-shapes, the universal shorthand of childhood for curtains. There is a door in the center with a round doorknob. There are flowers along the base of the wall, circles on sticks, and in the garden, a figure with a round head and outstretched arms. The person who lives there, welcoming you in. You think about the child who drew this, asleep now, somewhere in this village, in a bed that is exactly the right size for them, under blankets that smell of clean washing, with tomorrow's school clothes folded on the chair. They drew this picture today, or yesterday now, and went home and had their supper and were bathed and put to bed, and they are sleeping the total, undefended sleep of children who have had enough fresh air and enough food and enough love. You stand in front of the chalk drawing for a long time, the fields. You leave the schoolhouse behind and walk to the edge of the village, where the last stone wall marks the boundary between the houses and the fields. The fields spread away from you in the moonlight, great open spaces, the worked earth pale and smooth in places, dark and furrowed in others. The harvest is in, the fields have been turned and rested, and now they lie quiet under the moon, doing the slow, important work of recovery that earth does in autumn and winter, gathering itself back together after the labor of the growing season. You sit on the top of the stone wall. The wall is cold under you and slightly uneven. The stones have shifted over the years, just slightly, so that no 2 sections are quite the same height. But it is solid. It is enormously solid. This wall, built of stones that were pulled from the earth of these very fields generations ago, fitted together without mortar, balanced and locked into each other by their own weight and the skill of the people who laid them. From here, you can see the whole valley. A river catches the moonlight somewhere below, and to your left, a bright thread through the dark. The village rises behind you, its rooftops visible, its church tower clear against the sky. The hills on both sides of the valley are smooth and dark, their silhouettes soft and familiar. And ahead of you, the fields, the turned earth, the open sky. The wind is very slight out here, just enough to feel on your face, just enough to carry the smell of earth and distance. You breathe it in. The sky is immense. From inside the village, the buildings and trees frame the sky and make it manageable, make it fit into pieces. But from here, sitting on the wall at the edge of the fields, the sky is everything, a great dome of dark blue, thick with stars, the moon still high and bright above the western hills. You find yourself counting stars, not because you want to count them all, just because your eyes move from one to the next, noticing them. And there is something about that quiet, purposeless attention, looking at one star, then another, that is deeply restful. You stop counting. You just look. The night deepens. The moon has moved further west. Not dramatically. You would not notice it if you watched it minute by minute. But if you look away and then look back, you can tell that it has shifted. The shadows in the village have shifted with it, the angles changing. Different faces of buildings now lit, different faces now in shadow. It is deep night now, the deepest part of the night, that stretch between midnight and dawn, when the world is most completely still, when the night creatures have finished their hunting and the dawn creatures have not yet begun theirs. The hour when the village is most fully and most peacefully asleep. You walk back through the field's edge, back along the path towards the village center. Everything you pass more slowly now. The schoolhouse with its chalk drawing, the baker's house with its amber light and its rising dough, the old apple tree with its unreachable fruit, the residential streets, the gardens, the sleeping cats, the square, the fountain, the reflected moon. You stop beside the fountain again. The water is still. The reflected moon is perfect. Not wavering now, the tiny currents that disturbed it earlier have quieted completely. The reflected moon is as clear as the real one, floating on the dark surface of the water in the stone basin, and for a moment you stand between them, the real moon above you and the reflected one below, and the world feels held, suspended, perfectly balanced between sky and earth. You breathe again. The inn's last light, the crack of light under the inn's door is gone now. The innkeeper has finally gone to bed. The inn stands dark and solid across the square, its sign hanging perfectly still, the painted moon and painted key on it catching a gleam of real moonlight. All its windows dark, all its fires banked, all its rooms full of sleeping travelers, lying in narrow beds in rooms that smell of old wood and lavender, and the specific, pleasant mustiness of well-used inns, a smell made of years of meals and conversations, and arrivals and departures, all absorbed into the walls and floors and linens. The travelers are sleeping. Some of them are passing through, on their way somewhere else, pausing for a night, their bags packed and waiting. Some are here for longer, staying for business or for family. One, perhaps, has been away from home for a very long time and is traveling back, and in the morning will wake and know that today is the day, that by nightfall they will be home, and the thought of that will make it impossible to stay in bed too long, even though the bed is comfortable and the night was good. But for now, they all sleep. The snoring of one traveler, muffled through thick walls but just barely audible if you stand in the right spot, rises and falls with great regularity and contentment, a sound that in any other context would be annoying. But here, in this sleeping square, at this hour, is simply one more note in the music of the resting village, the animals of the night. Now, in the deepest part of the night, you notice things you might have missed earlier. On the roof of the bakery, 3 cats sit in a row, looking out over the square with that particular expression of supreme indifference that cats reserve for moments when they are, in fact, deeply interested in something. They are watching the churchyard, You follow their gaze, nothing visible, but one of the cat's ears turns, tracking something, a mouse perhaps, moving through the grass between the graves. The cat does not move, it simply watches with absolute patience, tracking something invisible with its ear. A bat sweeps low over the square, so fast that by the time you register its presence, it is already gone. A brief, angular flicker at the edge of your vision, the whisper of its wings, and then nothing. Somewhere in the eaves of the inn, a family of sparrows is sleeping in a tight, warm cluster. You cannot see them, but you know they are there because every night they are there. A small, warm community of birds tucked into the gap between a beam and the old stone, waiting for dawn with the simple faith of creatures who have never known a morning that did not come. From the direction of the mill, an owl calls, one low, resonant note. It hangs in the air for a moment after the sound has stopped. You can still hear the shape of it, the echo of it, in the silence that follows. Then silence closes back over it, like water over a stone. The cats on the bakery roof turn their heads toward the sound. One of them stretches, opens its mouth in a silent yawn that shows all its teeth, and then tucks itself into a tighter sitting position and resumes watching the churchyard. The miller's cottage. On your way back toward the mill, you pass the miller's cottage. It sits beside the river, not far from the mill itself, a low building, older than it looks. Its walls thick and its roof heavy. The miller has lived here all his life, as his father did before him, and his grandfather before that. The mill and the cottage go together, are inseparable, have belonged to the same family for as long as anyone in the village can remember. The cottage garden runs down to the river's edge. In summer, the miller's wife grows vegetables here, rows of them, careful and productive. Now, in autumn, the beds have been cleared and turned. A few things remain, kale, dark and sturdy, indifferent to the cold. The bare canes of bean plants still tied to their poles. A row of late leeks, their white bases glowing in the moonlight. At the end of the garden, at the river's edge, there is a wooden bench. The miller sits here in the evenings. The village says, sits and watches the river after a day at the mill, letting the sound of the water clear the flower dust from his thoughts. The bench is low and comfortable looking, its wood grey with age and weather. You sit on it. The river is close here, just a few steps away, the bank dropping steeply to the water. The sound is constant and close, louder than it was when you sat upstream. The mill race is just around the bend, and you can hear it, the urgency of the channeled water, the soft rushing. The mill wheel hangs still in the moonlight. Tomorrow morning, the miller will rise before dawn and come out to start the wheel. He will check the channel, adjust the sluice, listen to the sound of the mechanism engaging, and feel through his feet the vibration of the great stone beginning to turn. He will know by the sound whether it is right, the way people who have done something all their lives know it, not by thinking about it, but by feeling it, by the particular quality of the vibration in the soles of his feet, the particular note the stones make when they are true. But that is morning, that is tomorrow. Right now the wheel is still. The miller is asleep in his cottage behind you. The river runs under the moon. The herbalist's garden. Behind the church, in a walled garden that you discover through a small gate in the churchyard wall, is the most remarkable garden in the village. It is the herbalist's garden, tended by an elderly woman who has lived in the village her entire life and who knows more about plants than most people know about anything. She inherited the garden from her own teacher, who inherited it from hers, a chain of knowledge stretching back further than anyone can trace. Even now, in late autumn, the garden is alive, not with summer's rite of growth that is long past, but with the specific beauty of a garden at rest, the skeleton of the structure which in summer is hidden by leaves and growth, now visible. The paths between the beds, carefully laid with small flat stones, the low box hedging that divides the garden into sections, still green, still fragrant when you brush against it, the frames and stakes of plants that have been cut back to their roots but will return, and something still growing, a rosemary bush in the corner, enormous and ancient, still silver green and intensely fragrant, lavender along one path, its flowers long gone, but the grey-green stems and the faint, dry, sweet smell still there. A large bay tree, its dark leaves glossy, catching the moonlight on their upper surfaces. Sage, thyme, winter savory, the tough, cold, hardy herbs that do not retreat entirely from the season. You walk slowly through the garden. The smell of it changes with every few steps. Rosemary, then something earthy, then the sharp sweetness of the bay, then the soft ghost of lavender, then the green, cool smell of the box hedging. Each smell is distinct and whole, and each one seems to do something specific, not just to your nose, but somewhere deeper, somewhere quieter. You sit on a stone bench near the rosemary bush. The bush is so close that you can smell it simply by being near it. That clean, resinous, almost woody smell that seems to belong to a different time of day, somehow, as if rosemary is always slightly in the afternoon, even when the world is dark. You breathe it in. Your thoughts, which have been following you through the night, loose, easy, comfortable thoughts, not demanding anything, begin to slow. They become less like thoughts and more like shapes, like the shadows of things rather than the things themselves. And even the shapes begin to blur their edges, to soften. The return of the night wind. A wind comes up just after 3 in the morning. Not a cold wind, not a strong wind, just a gentle, wandering movement of air that seems to come from no particular direction, moving through the village in small eddies and gusts. It lifts a few dry leaves from the gutter of the main street and skitters them along the cobblestones with a small, dry sound. It sways the sign outside the inn. It moves through the linden tree in the garden behind the houses, setting the last leaves trembling. You are in the main street when it comes. You feel it on your face, cool and slight, carrying the smell of distance, of open fields and high ground. It is the kind of wind that reminds you that the world extends far beyond the boundaries of this small, sleeping place, that beyond the valley walls there are other valleys, other villages, other sleeping people. that the sky above this village is the same sky that arches over cities and forests and mountains and seas. The wind passes, the sign stops swaying, the leaves settle, the linden tree grows still, but the reminder remains, that pleasant, grounding sense of the world's vastness, held lightly, not threatening, just present. You walk on, the old woman's window. In a house at the far end of the village, there is a light, not a candle this time, and not the baker's kitchen lamp. This is a steadier light, slightly warmer, a small lamp on a windowsill, the kind of lamp you keep burning when you cannot sleep, when the night is long and the hours need some companionship. The window is on the ground floor. The curtain is drawn, but thin, and the light comes through it softly. You do not look in, but you stand for a moment on the path outside and think about the person behind the curtain. An elderly woman, perhaps, the herbalist herself, or someone like her, someone who has lived long enough that sleep sometimes becomes unreliable, who wakes in the small hours and finds the night too quiet to rest in. She may be reading, in a comfortable chair, a book she has read before, something she knows well, that asks nothing new of her, that is simply company. Or she may be sitting with her hands in her lap, looking at nothing in particular, thinking the slow digressive thoughts of the very early morning, letting her mind wander through its own landscape. From inside the house, very faintly you can hear, or perhaps imagine, the sound of a clock ticking, steady, patient, marking time without judgment, without urgency. Tick, tick, tick. You stand on the path and listen. The woman behind the curtain is awake, and her clock is ticking. And somewhere down the street, the baker is asleep, and his dough is rising. And in the mill, the wheel is still. And in the stable, the horses are breathing. And in the churchyard, the old stones are standing in the moonlight. And over all of it, the moon is moving, slowly, surely, toward the west and the morning. Everything is as it should be. You breathe the long hours. The night reaches its deepest point. This is the hour, somewhere between 3 and 4 in the morning, when the village is most completely, most profoundly asleep, when even the insomniac has finally drifted off, when even the cats have given up their watching and tucked themselves into sleep, when the last coals in the last fireplace have finally gone from red to grey to nothing. You walk through the village in this hour, and the silence is of a different quality than earlier. Earlier, there was still the sense of the village recently having gone to sleep, the warmth of it, the nearness of it, the feeling that behind these walls, people were still finding their positions, still having the last fragments of conscious thought before the drop into sleep. The dough was just put to rise. The baker had just gone upstairs. Now, all of that is past. The dough has been rising for hours. The baker is deep in his dreams. The horses in the stable have shifted and settled and are in the profound sleep of large, healthy animals. The children are dreaming their children's dreams, bright, strange, completely convincing dreams of things that will make no sense in the morning, but are absolutely real right now. The village has been asleep for a long time. It has reached a depth of sleep that is almost palpable, a heaviness in the air, a density to the silence. You walk through it slowly. Your footsteps on the cobblestones seem very loud in this quiet, even though you are walking as softly as you can. Each step a small sound, then a long silence, then another step. You are not disturbing the village. You are simply moving through its sleep, the way a current moves through deep water, present but not disruptive. The stars before dawn. You find your way back to the bench beside the fountain. The square is unchanged and entirely familiar now. You know it well, have crossed and recrossed it tonight in your wandering. The fountain, the inn, the bakery, the cobblestones, the church beyond its wall. All of it is known to you now, all of it comfortable, all of it simply there. You sit on the bench and look up. The stars have shifted significantly. The sky's slow wheel has been turning all night, the constellations moving in their patient arcs, and the sky above the square is not quite the same sky you saw when you arrived. Different stars are prominent now. The familiar ones are in different positions, but the moon is still there, lower now, noticeably lower, its light falling at a different angle across the square, the shadows longer and pointing differently than they did at midnight. The moon is heading for the western hills. It will set before dawn, sometime in the next hour or two. It will drop below the horizon, and there will be a period of true darkness, starlight only, before the first grey of dawn begins in the east. You watch the moon. It is remarkable, really, the way it moves, imperceptibly from moment to moment, clearly from hour to hour. You cannot watch it move, but if you look away and look back, it has moved. It is like growth or change of any kind, invisible in the instant, undeniable over time. The reflected moon in the fountain has also shifted. It is no longer in the center of the basin, but toward one edge, the angle of the real moon having changed the angle of the reflection. Two moons slowly moving. The square is so quiet, the sleeping village breathes. There is a moment in the deepest quiet when you become aware of the village breathing. Not literally, of course, but there is a rhythm to the night that feels like breath, a long, slow rhythm that you sense rather than hear, made up of 1,000 small things. The horses breathing in the stable, the wind moving very faintly through the trees, the river running in its constant and unhurried way, the old wood of the houses contracting slightly in the night's coolness, the fire settling in the baker's grate. All of these things together, layered under the silence, make a sound that is not quite a sound, a presence more than a sound. You become still. You let yourself feel it, that slow collective breath, that gentle rhythm of the sleeping place, in and out, in and out, the fountain's water catching the moonlight, the moss on the cobblestones, dark and soft, the chalk drawing on the schoolhouse wall, fading slowly in the night dew, the doe rising in its bowl, the heron standing still on its stone by the river, the cat on the windowsill, nose buried in its own warm fur, the sparrows in the eaves of the inn, their small hearts beating very fast, the way small birds' hearts always beat, rapid, steady, alive, in and out. A slow walk home. You rise from the bench. You are not leaving the village. You have nowhere to leave to, but there is a drift in you now toward a particular place, the eastern edge, where you arrived, the orchard road, the field of stubble that gleams in the moonlight. You walk through the square for the last time. You pass the bakery. You pass the cobbler's with its shoes. You pass the inn, dark now, all its windows dark, the crack of light, long gone. You pass the church gate, still slightly open from when you came through earlier. You turn down the main street, back toward the east road. The cobblestones are familiar under your feet. You know the places where the stones are most worn, most rounded. You know the dip near the cobbler's shop where water cools after rain. You know the place where the moss is thickest, the softest patch, just before the road curves. You know this village now. It knows you, the way a place knows everyone who has moved quietly through it with attention and care. You come out onto the east road. The orchard is on your left, the field of stubble on your right. The road runs ahead of you, between its low stone walls, toward the darkness of the open countryside beyond the village. But you are not going further. You stop here, at the edge. You turn and look back. The village behind you is a cluster of shapes and shadows in the moonlight. The church tower above everything, the rooftops, the chimneys, the occasional tree, a few faint smells drifting out to you on the still air, wood smoke, hay, the faintest ghost of bread not yet baked. The moon is very close to the western hills now. Its light is still bright, but it has a quality it lacked at midnight. A fullness, almost. A richness, the way light gets when it is near the horizon, passing through more atmosphere, painting everything in a slightly warmer, slightly more golden hue. The village in this light is beautiful, the stones warm, the shadows deep, the apple trees in the orchard behind you silvered and still. You stand on the east road and look at the village. You breathe. The moon descends. The moon touches the western hills. Not abruptly. It does not simply disappear. It descends slowly, touching the dark line of the hills and then sinking behind them gradually, the way the sun does, a quarter of it below the horizon, then half, then 3/4, and then a glow along the hilltop where it has gone, and then that fading too. The village darkens, not immediately. There is the glow on the hilltop, and then there is a period of extraordinary clarity when the stars, no longer competing with the moon's brightness, seem to intensify. Stars that were invisible in the moonlight appear now, adding their small lights to the sky, thickening the Milky Way, making the darkness seem full rather than empty. You stand in the starlight. The village before you is dark shapes and silver starlight. The church tower, the rooftops, the darker smudge of the linden tree in its garden, the river somewhere out of sight, still audible, a constant, soft, unceasing sound. The air has changed. Without the moon, the temperature drops very slightly, 1 or 2 degrees, enough to feel on the skin of your face. A fine dew has been settling for some time, and now it intensifies slightly. The grass along the road's edges growing damp and cold, the stone walls darkening with moisture. The night is at its most itself now, not moonlit, not yet lit by dawn, just starlit and cool and very, very still. The foredawn. In the east, so faint that you might be imagining it, there is the suggestion of a lightening, not a color yet, just a barely perceptible difference in the quality of the dark, a thinning of the black at the horizon, as if somewhere very far away below the edge of the world, something is preparing. You have been walking all night, or rather, you have been here all night, drifting, watching, listening, sitting, standing, breathing. The time has gone without your noticing it, the way time goes when you are fully present in a place, when your attention is completely occupied by the things in front of you, and the time just passes through you without accumulating. The village is still sleeping. In the baker's kitchen, the dough has been rising in its bowl for hours. The baker will be awake soon. He is a man who wakes reliably before dawn, his body's clock set by years of this same routine. He will come downstairs into the cool kitchen, lift the cloth from the bowl, and find the dough soft and airy and full of the night's slow work. He will punch it down, and the sound of that, the small, satisfying sound of air leaving the dough, will be the first sound of the morning. But not yet. The clock on the church tower shows, in the very faint beginning of the eastern light, its hands close to 5. Not yet. The first bird, before the dawn, before any color in the sky, before the baker comes downstairs, a single bird begins to sing. It is a robin. It is always a robin. The robin sings first because it has the largest eyes proportionally of any garden bird. And those eyes, in the last deep darkness before the first of the light, can see well enough to know that the darkness is thinning. It sings from the orchard behind you, from one of the apple trees, a single sustained voice in the absolute quiet. The song is extraordinary. It is one of the most beautiful sounds in the world, and it is so quiet in the absolute stillness of the pre-dawn that every note is perfectly clear. The robin sings with a kind of deliberate complexity, not the simple repetitions of some birds, but a fluid, inventive series of phrases that changes and develops, the bird exploring the full range of its voice in the darkness, singing as if the village were its private concert hall. You stand on the road and listen. The singing goes on for a long time. Other birds do not join it yet. The robin sings alone, the only voice in all the world for these minutes, the only sound apart from the river and the very faint movement of the trees. Then, after a while, silence. The robin has finished for now. The darkness is slightly thinner in the east. The dawn begins. The light comes so slowly at first that you cannot say exactly when it begins. One moment the east is dark, and then, over the course of many minutes, the dark becomes a deep blue, and the deep blue becomes a lighter blue, and along the horizon, a thin line of pale grey appears and then widens, and then the grey takes on the very faintest blush of colour. Not quite pink, not quite gold, but something between them, something new. The stars fade, not all at once, gradually, the brightest ones holding on longest, the faintest ones disappearing first, until the sky is a pale, clear blue, with only a handful of stars still visible, and then none. The village is still dark, but not the darkness of the night. This is the quieter, softer darkness of very early morning, a darkness that already feels temporary, that knows the light is coming. In the baker's kitchen, a lamp comes on, a warm light in the kitchen window. The baker is up, the dough is being looked at, the oven is being stoked. Somewhere in the residential streets, a dog barks once, recognizing the dawn, and then is quiet. The robin begins again, and this time, within a few minutes, other birds join in. A song thrush, somewhere in the direction of the church. Sparrows bursting suddenly into noise from the eaves of the inn. The high, thin voice of a wren from the garden behind the houses. The morning chorus is beginning. It starts softly, just these few voices, and will build slowly over the next half hour into something full and layered and extraordinary. But right now, in these early minutes, each voice is still distinct, still audible on its own. The birds calling into the blue-grey air, as if testing it, as if announcing themselves to the morning. The village wakes, not all at once. The village does not wake the way a single person wakes, all at once in a single moment of returning consciousness. It wakes the way a piece of music builds from silence, one instrument entering, then another, the sound accumulating. The baker's light is the first. Then, across the square, a window on the upper floor of the inn opens, the innkeeper's window facing east, and a figure in the window looking out at the dawn, breathing the morning air for a moment before the day begins. A door opens somewhere, the small sound of a latch, the brief creak of hinges, and then a figure comes out into the street, an old man, the village's earliest riser, who walks each morning before breakfast. He wears a heavy coat and carries a stick, and he walks with the particular deliberate pace of someone who has been walking this same route for decades, who knows every stone. He does not see you, or perhaps he does, in the way that people see shapes in the early morning, without quite registering them, and passes without comment, his breath making small clouds in the cool air. The light is growing. The sky above the eastern hills is pale gold now, not quite dawn color, but close. The sun is still below the horizon, but its light is spreading, washing the underside of a few thin clouds with color, touching the tops of the buildings with a faint, warm gilding. The church clock prepares itself, that preparatory tick, and strikes 5. 5 clear, low notes, traveling out across the square and the streets and the river and the fields. The morning is beginning, the light on the village. The sun breaks the horizon. You cannot see it from the square. The eastern hills are in the way, and the sun will clear them before you see it directly. But you see its effect, a sudden brightening, a shift from gold to orange to something more alive, a light that has warmth in it, actual warmth, the first warmth of the day reaching across the valley. The church tower, catching the first direct sunlight, seems to ignite. The pale stone turns amber, then gold, then a warm white as the angle changes. The rooftops of the village brighten one by one as the sun climbs above the hills, each one catching the light in turn. The river beyond the mill flashes gold. The willows on the far bank become fully, warmly yellow, not the moonlit silver gold of last night, but a true, rich yellow, the color of autumn at its most itself. The village is beautiful in this light. Everything ordinary is made extraordinary by it. The cobblestones glowing amber, the old stone of the buildings warm as honey, the vegetable gardens along the residential streets bright with the last greens of the season, the dew on the grass sparkling where the sun touches it. The smells change too, the dew rising from the grass as the sun reaches it, the wood smoke from the baker's chimney, now more purposeful, a thicker, warmer smoke, and then, after a while, the first faint, impossible to mistake smell of baking bread. It comes down the street like a visitor. The village in the morning. You stand in the square as the village finishes waking. More windows opening, more doors. The sound of footsteps on the cobblestones. First one pair, then several, then many. Voices exchanging morning greetings. A word or two, a comment about the weather. The unhurried brevity of people who see each other every day, and whose conversations are the continuation of one long conversation that has been going on for years. The fountain, still not running but full of clear morning water, catches the sunlight and holds it. Not the moon's silver now, but the sun's gold. The colors of the water completely changed. The baker appears in his doorway. He looks out at the square with the satisfied expression of a man who has done his first good work of the day. He leans against the door frame. He looks at the sky, at the color of the morning, and seems pleased with it, pleased with all of it, with the morning and the village and the smell of his own bread. He goes back inside. Soon the first customers will come. The old man returns from his walk, his color improved, his step a little lighter. The innkeeper comes down and opens the inn's front door, propping it wide with a stone, airing the place for the day. The cats descend from the bakery roof and disappear into their various territories. The birds in the eaves of the inn pour out into the morning light and scatter in all directions. The village is awake, and you have been here all night, walking its streets, sitting by its river, listening to its silence, breathing its air, watching it sleep and watching it wake. And you know it now, the way you know a place you love. Not completely, not with the deep knowledge of someone who has lived here all their life, but with something real, with the knowledge of a quiet night spent paying attention. You are still here. Take a breath. The village is bright and full of morning. The bread is baking. The river is running. The day has begun, but you don't need to move yet. You can stay here a little longer, in the square, in the morning light, the fountain catching the sun, the cobblestones warm and golden, the birds singing, the bread. Just breathe. You are safe. You are warm. The village is all around you, living its ordinary and beautiful life. And you can rest now. Let your eyes grow heavy. Let the morning light be soft and golden behind your eyelids. Let the sounds of the village, the birds, the footsteps, the fountain, become something you hear from a great, comfortable distance. Let go. Everything is as it should be. Good night or good morning. Either way, rest. End.